Hello class, I hope you are having a wonderful virtual learning day. In this lesson, we're going to talk about the history of the Titanic, the 1997 film of the same name, and how knowing this information can help you with learning the Titanic medley. This lesson will deal with both historical events and fictional film elements, and I will do my best to make it clear which is which. To start, I need you to pull up the note sheet on Google Classroom, as you will be filling that out as we go through this lesson. You will be turning this in at the end, so be sure to complete it. Once you have that pulled up, go ahead and answer the first question. Write one thing you already know about Titanic, either the real ship or the movie. Feel free to pause the video to give yourself time to write. The story of the RMS Titanic is regarded as one of the most famous tragedies in modern history. The historical account has been represented in media and art, perhaps most famously in James Cameron's 1997 film Titanic, which tells the story as flashback memories of an elderly Rose DeWitt Bukater, whose younger self is played by Kate Winslet. To shorten the epic tale, the high-class Rose meets the handsome but penniless artist Jack Dawson, portrayed by Leonardo DiCaprio, upon the deck of the RMS Titanic, and a love story is born that has become infamous in the world of cinema. The movie won 11 Academy Awards, including Original Dramatic Score for the masterful work by James Horner, and Original Song for the timeless My Heart Will Go On, recorded by Celine Dion. Now that we have introduced the movie, let's go ahead and look at the actual history of the Titanic. To give you a preview of what we are going to do, as we talk about these historical facts, there will be a few times where we pause to consider what music is being played at that point in the film retelling. All of the pieces we will talk about are included in the Titanic medley that you are learning to play in class. Alright, here we go. The RMS Titanic was one of 3 passenger liners commissioned by the White Star Line in the early 20th century. These 3, the Titanic, the Olympic, and the Britannic, were designed for comfort instead of just speed. The man responsible for the design of the Titanic was Thomas Andrews, and it was the highest of luxury design, with second-class accommodations comparable to first on most other liners. At a daunting 882.5 feet long and about 92.5 feet at its widest point, it was also designed with safety in mind, having 16 compartments with doors to contain water in the event that the hull was breached. It would take flooding at least 4 of these compartments at one time to bring the ship down, which led many to believe that the Titanic was unsinkable. Construction on Titanic began in March 1909, and by April 1911, Titanic was declared seaworthy. A year later, on April 10, 1912, Titanic set sail on its maiden voyage, traveling from Southampton, England to New York City. And now it is time for our first musical pause. This piece, fittingly titled Southampton, plays when the 1912 set of the movie is seen for the first time. As you listen, I want you to think about what musical elements are being used and how they might represent the excitement and possibly nervousness of those people on the dock preparing to board the monstrous Titanic. Let me just hit play real quick. There we go. With her 2,000 passengers and crew, and after 2 stops along the coast of France and Ireland, Titanic was finally on her way across the Atlantic to New York City on the afternoon of April 11, 1912. Captain Edward J. Smith told First Officer William Murdoch it was time to take her to sea. And that is what is happening for our second musical pause. The piece Take Her to Sea, Mr. Murdoch plays as the Titanic is finally headed for the open Atlantic. As you listen, I want you to think about what musical elements are being used and how they might showcase the power of the Titanic functioning at full capacity for the first time. Iceberg warnings had been coming in throughout the voyage, but it was not until the evening of April 14th that Titanic would enter those dangerous waters. The unusually calm water and a missing set of binoculars made icebergs more difficult to spot for the lookouts. At 11:40 p.m., about 400 nautical miles from the coast of Canada, an iceberg was spotted in the ship's path. The command "hard to starboard" was given to turn the vessel left and avoid colliding with the iceberg, but it was too late. Titanic scraped the iceberg, rupturing 5 of its safety compartments in the process and sealing the ship's fate. The Titanic would sink. Distress signals were sent out, but those who received them, like the Carpathia and the Olympic, were too far away to reach the doomed Titanic in time. This is our third and final musical pause with the piece "Hard to Starboard." It plays as the iceberg is first spotted, and the crew does everything they can to reroute Titanic, but it becomes clear collision is unavoidable. As you listen, think about what musical elements are being used, and how they might portray the fear and urgency felt by those on board as the situation becomes dire. Panic, poor planning, and a lack of clear management made evacuation largely ineffective, only adding to the nightmare. There were only 20 lifeboats, which at full capacity of 65 people would only carry 1,178 people in total. Additionally, many lifeboats were being released well below capacity, and in the end, only 705 people would be rescued this way. The bow kept sinking, lifting the stern out of the water, placing incredible strain on the midsection. At 2:18 a.m., the lights went out and the mighty Titanic broke in two. Just 2 minutes later, at 2:20 a.m., both sections of the mighty Titanic disappeared beneath the dark Atlantic waters. More than 1,500 of the Titanic's original 2,200 perished in the crash, most from drowning and exposure to the icy water. 700 of these deaths were crew. The other group most affected were third-class passengers who were unaware of the direness of the situation and were unable to reach the deck in time. Survivors report that the ship's musicians kept performing on the deck right until the end, ending their performance with "Nearer My God to Thee," according to most stories. None of the musicians would survive the night. The Carpathia would finally arrive a little over an hour after the sinking to find the few survivors docking in New York on the morning of April 18th. So, this concludes our lesson on Titanic and the music of the movie. If you would like to learn more or review what we talked about, I have linked a few websites along with this lesson, and I would encourage you to check those out. Now, I want you to pause for a second and think about what we've learned. We've gone through a lot of information in a short amount of time. There is a Google form linked in Classroom and that will need to be completed in order for you to receive full credit for this lesson. I need you to tell me if what you thought you knew at the beginning of the lesson turned out to be true. List one history fact about Titanic, one fact about the movie, and choose one piece we listened to and discuss the musical and thematic elements. You will also need to upload your completed notes page. Since this is a video, you are welcome to back up and replay any parts as much as you need in order to understand the information. Feel free to send me an email if you have any trouble or have any questions. I hope you enjoyed this lesson and that you have a wonderful rest of your day.